Nah. Hip hop's biggest crash out, Caribou. What the hell? 22 minutes. 22 minutes. Give me a give me a 10-minute video, boy. What dying on every drug feels like. Okay, this is what we're talking
The
about.
pencil
Man.
incident.
Some
These are a
stupid.
natural psychedelic that cause hallucinations. About 30 minutes after eating them, colors get brighter, patterns start crawling on the walls, time stretches like taffy, and your sense of self begins to melt. Your brain is rushed into a state of euphoria, leaving you questioning what's real and what's not. But what happens when you take too much? On a calm
Okay.
Saturday afternoon, a 21-year-old Hispanic man would return home from work and consume an unspecified
Is
quantity
this
of
real?
shrooms. Shortly after consumption, he started experiencing a bad trip and begun acting erratically upon arriving to his house. His stepfather and brother would step in and
No,
restrain
the
him to try to
story.
calm him down, but he'd break free of their grasp and also break a glass vase in the process. In his frenzied state, he'd then begin to rub himself against the glass shards on the floor and severely injure his arms and legs. His
Dude.
brother and stepfather would successfully intervene to stop him from injuring himself any further with the glass shards, and he'd be sat down at a desk. But shockingly enough, in a horrific act, he'd take a number 2 pencil that was laying on the desk, stand it upright, and repeatedly smash his head on the sharpened pencil. When he raised his head, he'd reveal that he'd jabbed the pencil repeatedly into both of his eye sockets. He would stand up
Dude.
again to do something else, but quickly vomited on himself, leaving his family in a state of total panic. Emergency services were called, where they tried desperately to save the young man's life, but unfortunately, they would only get so far. Shrooms are one of the least toxic substances in the world. You'd need to eat dozens or even hundreds of grams to fatally overdose. But that doesn't mean people can't die from it. Most fatalities come from behavioral toxicity, panicking, jumping out windows, walking into traffic, or doing something fatal during a full-blown psychotic break. You won't pass away from the drug itself, you'll pass away from what it does to your mind. The Gator incident. Now let's talk about meth. When it hits, you feel invincible. This substance cranks up your sympathetic nervous system and causes an explosive release of dopamine in your body. Your heart starts racing, you become laser focused, and you'll be filled with unstoppable energy. The high can last 8 to 16 hours. No sleep, no food, just intense stimulation. And when you take too much, your body turns into an absolute war zone. On May 26th, in Orlando, Florida, concerned bystanders would phone a call to police officers to let them know that there was a man on a racetrack shaking violently, asking to see his son. When police arrived, he was nowhere to be found, until suddenly he was located
You
with
can talk slower.
psychosis,
Oops.
panic, could only get so far. Laser photo, Florida, concerned until suddenly he was located in a lake full of alligators.
That's what I'm about to do.
Officers would try to throw the man a life vest, but he'd refuse it and would start getting attacked by the alligators in the water. And to officers' surprise, like it was a scene straight out of a horror movie, the man actually resurfaced out of the lake, covered in severe injuries and carrying gardening shears. He would charge at the officers in their car, and in response, they would tase him repeatedly, but it would have absolutely no effect. It was only when the man jumped into the passenger seat of the police cruiser and tried reaching for a rifle in the vehicle that officers finally used lethal force. Hijacks your brain's reward system and sends your body into overdrive. It burns out your dopamine center and disrupts your central nervous system so much that your body both loses touch with reality and can no longer regulate its temperature. Your organs can literally cook from the inside out and cause you to collapse. You can have a heart attack, or you could simply just go on a rampage and meet an early demise like this man. The 108th incident. Weed is by far one of the most commonly used substances in the United
Okay,
States.
how do you die off weed?
Within
This
minutes
is
of smoking,
crazy.
you're relaxed, music sounds better, jokes are funnier, and you get really, really hungry. You might feel euphoric, or
So no.
anxious, or both. It depends on the strain, your mood, and your brain chemistry. So what happens when you smoke too much of it? Well, here's the truth. You can't from THC toxicity alone. There's no known lethal dose in humans. You'd have to smoke thousands of joints in a short time to even come close. But that doesn't mean it's harmless. In the spring of 2018 in California, a woman who had just befriended a man at a dog park she frequently visited would follow him home to his apartment for a quick spark-up session, which, mind you,
Okay.
is totally legal in the state of California. After the two finished lighting up grass through a the woman would unexpectedly shoot up from her seat straight to the kitchen and grab 3 knives.
Hey, could you come back with some chips? And maybe some ice cream? And maybe some chicken Oh! Are you trying to chop up some salsa? I love salsa.
Jin, I'm not making salsa.
And in just the blink of an eye, she would stab the man repeatedly non-stop for 108
What
times.
the fuck?
His body would be covered in marks from head to toe, and his face would nearly be entirely carved out.
Bro, that's
Officers
not
that
death
arrived
by
at the scene
weed,
would
bro.
find that
She
had
was
also
tweaking.
her dog, and shockingly enough, had stopped herself 40 times, and was still in the process of doing it. They would quickly intervene and try to physically stop her, but it wasn't enough. Officers would tase her 4 times to try to break her psychotic frenzy, but it would be to no avail. In order to get her to stop, one police officer had to swing a baton at her arm 9 times to break it, and finally she would release her grip from the knife. The man unfortunately didn't make it, but surprisingly, the woman did. And even more shockingly, she faced 0 prison time for her actions because it was proven in court that she experienced what is commonly known as cannabis-induced psychosis. The woman was very inexperienced when it came to smoking weed, and that potentially played a huge role in why she experienced this rare phenomenon. She was
Cannabis-induced
placed on probation for
psychosis.
2 years and was required to do 100 hours of community service. The man's family, especially his father, were extremely upset when they heard about this. Understandably so.
It should never have happened. She should have never.
So
been
she really
allowed
got
to
no
walk free.
jail-
She should have done some time.
I just
You
know
you
she
got
was a
jury
white
that
bitch,
convicted
bro.
her
That's how I
unanimous
know
conviction
she was a white
by
bitch,
less
bro.
than 4 hours, and the judge went
You
completely
off
against all
bud,
3 of those
and you
entities
stab a
and just
nigga
said,
to
"You're free to
death
go."
and
Stop.
stab yourself, and they call it
YouTube
psychosis.
really didn't like the case on equity that I found.
But when
So
niggas
instead,
be off
we'll go over
crack
the
or
situation
something
where a
like that, and they
26-year-old
stab
martial arts
somebody,
fighter and
all
his
of a
sparring
sudden,
partner consumed
they're
an
just fucking
unnatural
drug
amount of
addicts.
shrooms while in their apartment. Initially, everything was fine, until they became convinced that the world was coming to an end.
That's some
and that
bullshit,
the two
boy.
were fighting a battle of life and death between God and the devil. The two would begin their legendary battle, and finally, when the struggle finished, their friend would walk into their apartment room.
You don't-
only
you
to
don't
find the martial
fucking
arts fighter standing
skip
butt
jail
naked in the
time
kitchen,
because
cooking his friend's heart,
you
and remains
got
in a
drunk
sweat.
night and
The
fucked
victim would
up.
be found laying on the couch, missing his face, tongue, and heart.
Weed induced
And sadly,
psychosis, bro.
The autopsy
Fuck
revealed
that,
that he
man.
was
You
alive.
just got too
and his
high
chest
in
was
it.
ripped open,
You couldn't
and his heart
handle
was
your
taken
shit.
out. The martial arts fighter wouldn't be as lucky as the woman in our last case. He'd be formally charged and sentenced to 47 years in state prison for what he did to his friend. Now, this probably makes the US legal system come off as a little hypocritical, considering that in the other case the woman was allowed to blame psychosis for her actions and be cleared of any severe wrongdoing, whereas in this case, the fighter's state of influence was
Okay,
ignored
we get
and
the
he was
point.
directly sentenced. But honestly, that's
Okay, it's like 10 now. Okay. Y'all. I know everybody's tired. I know sleep is what we all need. So it's time for everyone to go to bed. Good night. Sleep tight. Don't let the bed bugs bite. And things of that